Manchester City 5, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1 at the Etihad. That wasn't a fun watch, was it? Wolves really taken apart by a team that are vastly superior to them, but we all already know this, so there's no point in really having any meltdown over it because we all expected it to happen. They're going for the title, we're sitting in mid-table, not going anywhere fast, going to finish between 10th and 13th. I can understand why the motivation levels might not have been at 100%, but yeah, Manchester City, we're obviously always going to win that match. So it's just one of them really for Wolves. You have to take it on the chin, but they have lost 5-1, which is a bit of a thumping. And it was so preventable. So much of it was so preventable. The first goal, never a penalty, once again. Referees pressured into giving the penalty. Craig Boulson was shouted at by Phil Foden, and another City player came up to him. He'd shook his head, and then he points to the spot. Like, come on, man. Seriously. It's just, they're not even trying to hide it anymore, really. And then VAR didn't recommend a review. And, Ian Wright said it was the worst penalty decision he's seen. And that's twice now he said that in the last few weeks with Wolves. So you're noticing a common theme here. It's every week, we're getting screwed over. That's our first goal in the game. But I'm not going to say, that's the reason we lost. It's not. But it's the first goal in the game, and it's a big moment. And we've been shafted again by 50-50 coming together. Do me a favour, honestly. Second goal, so poor from Cunha. Absolutely, no excuse. In your own half, trying to dribble. If that was Daniel Penance last season, Wolves fans would have him killed. Honest to God. But, of course, Cunha has played very well for Wolves by and large this season, but it's a bad mistake, because if you give away a ball in your own half against the best team in the world, they're going to punish you, and Haaland runs about 12 foot into the air to head it in. Nothing really Semedo could do about it, and at that stage it's 2-0, and it's looking long for Wolves. And then, of course, Haaland threw on goal. Semedo takes him out. 3-0 penalty given by VAR, of course, because the referee missed it. I think it was a penalty for what it's worth. O'Neill tried to argue that it wasn't worthy of an overturn. I'll maybe disagree with that one. I think it was a penalty. Haaland obviously tucks it away. 3-0. And then we get a goal back in the second half. Bellegarde's cross. Edison flaps it and misses it, and Hwang with his 12th goal of the season. So I'm really happy with Hwang this season, to be honest. His output has been fantastic. 12 goals, 3 assists for Wolves. It's no coincidence that the 6 weeks he missed, Wolves didn't win a match. He was really integral to this team and putting the ball in the back of the net. He's been back for 4 starts now, but 3 starts really, Bournemouth, Luton and yesterday, and he scored 3 goals. Of course, the one against Bournemouth was disallowed, but but he has this knack of not playing especially well but getting goals, and that's exactly what you need in the Premier League. So I'm really happy with him this season and his output. He's really stepped up to the mark, and who knows, we could have been in an FA Cup semi-final if Hwang had been on the pitch against Coventry. He's just these ifs, buts and maybes, but I think he's another big role to play for us next season, especially with the fact that I doubt we'll be spending that much money, and I don't think any club would pay the fee that we would want for him. So, yeah, I think he'll be sticking around and hopefully bags a couple more goals next season. And we had hope at 3-1, but then, of course, 10 seconds later, ball up, Kilman. A conversation needs to be had about him. Now, obviously, he's against one of the best strikers in the world in Haaland, but the way he just brushed him aside totally and smacked it in the corner, obviously it's great striker play. But Dawson against Haaland in September had him locked up. He had, I think, 4 or 5 touches in that match. He had 32 in the match yesterday. And Haaland, I think it was 8 shots on target yesterday as to 1 at Molineux. It's so poor from Gilman. I don't see how he's unable to mark a man against Coventry as well, because I go back to that every time because there was a match that derailed their season, to be honest. Ellis Sims, Kilman couldn't handle him at all. Santi Bueno couldn't handle him. And Kilman's job as a centre-back, as a main centre-back, is to tell him, no, look, I'm the captain, I'll take charge of this situation. But he doesn't. And he never seems to. And I don't know. It's no coincidence that we've been leaking goals like a sieve since Dawson hasn't been in the team. And to be honest with you, when this summer comes, and if we do need to make a big sale, not for FFP, but to spend money, I wouldn't be adverse to seeing Kilman being one of the ones to leave. And that's not me saying he's bad, that's far from it, but I think he'd be further up in the list of players I'd prefer. Obviously, I don't want to lose anyone, but instead of Aït-Nouri, Gomez, Neto, etc. Because for me, the last few weeks, he's not really proved his worth as a captain and as someone that can step up and carry us, whereas Craig Dawson really has in other parts of the season. So that was the fourth. And the fifth again from Wolves. Toti Gomez losing it, tackling it against Rodri, comes over to Alvarez, tucks it away, 5. That was an awful, awful goal to concede. And it's like, what can you do? Like, playing out from the back. Wolves haven't given away a goal at all this season from doing it. And yet I saw on the stats on Sky that they're the worst team for losing ball in their own third from high presses or something, which I didn't think made much sense. But then yesterday they proved the stat to be correct because we let a goal in from it. We let 2 goals in from it. But it was really poor from Wolves on that front. And season is finished. Like, it has been finished since we lost commentary, really. And hopefully we can end it on a bit of a high note against Palace next weekend. Maybe get Neto back in the squad. Bellegarde, nice to see him get an assist in his half of football. Get back to a 5 at the back next weekend because it clearly didn't work again yesterday. And hopefully finish the home season strongly against Crystal Palace. And for the love of God, stop making mistakes playing out from the back, because Palace are another team that like to press and they will make us suffer. Wolves coming up short yesterday. Manchester City 5, Wolves 1.
I've had time to sit on today's result. Finished Man City 5, Wolves 1. We were probably due a spanking. We haven't seen that often this season. Us getting absolutely battered by Man City today. Or anybody for that case, really. So it was kind of due a performance like that, and we just didn't look arsed. I thought that was a big thing. Losing possession easily. Touches were terrible. Passing was terrible. Defending was terrible. We showed a bit of effort, I suppose, to try and get in the game. It was always going to be tough. It's Man City, away, and they're fighting for the title. They need to win every game. They're obviously going to be as clinical as they can. And if you're not on your game, they will pick you apart, and that's exactly what happened to us today. I can't really pick points out of the game positively. I mean, Hwang stuck his goal well. And some of the lads did all right. But realistically, it's mistake after mistake, and they're going forward and they're scoring goals, and that's what's ultimately won them the game. The first penalty, I know people think it's not a penalty. I don't think it's a penalty, but I do think Nouri's giving him an option, and when he's gone over to VAR and gone over to the monitor, he's never sticking with his original decision, or his on-field decision. He was always going to stick with that, and that's the funny thing about it. He shakes his head and says no penalty, and then a millisecond after that, he's pointing to the spot because 2 or 3 of their players have run up to him. It is what it is. It's a shame that this is how our season's ended. It's frustrating because we pay a lot of money to go and watch these lads up and down the country. And when you feel like no one's arse, then what are we going for? It's a bit unfair on the fans and a bit unfair on even the players and the manager. They've had a great season. They've done a great job to get us in the position that we are in. But you just want to see a bit more from them. We haven't really seen that. Other than the Luton game, we haven't really seen that since possibly Fulham, which isn't great. But yeah, 2 more to go. Then we can start to look at next season after a bit of a break. I think everyone needs it. Everyone needs a bit of a break now. We're at that point where it's getting beyond, kind of a bit of a chore to go and watch the games rather than us really enjoying it. I suppose that's what happens when you've got nothing to play for. But yeah, it'll be good to get a good send off for them next Saturday at home. Palace, last home game of the season. Give them a good show of appreciation at the end of the game, and we can start to think towards the next season. So yeah, disappointing today, but it is what it is with Man City. So we move on. Cheers, boys.
Well, Man City 5, Wolves 1, just back from the Etihad. Probably went as expected, really. Haaland in that kind of form, not really much you can do about that, and probably no better finisher in world football at the moment than that man when he's in form. And the leap for his second goal is absolutely ridiculous. I've seen a couple of people on Twitter blaming Semedo, not quite sure how you can do that. There's no defender jumping with him there and stopping him getting to that ball. The leap on it is absolutely ridiculous. It's a good ball in, and he's nodded it in the back of the net. And his fourth, I haven't seen it again, but from where we were in sort of the opposite corner, it looked like Hillman did everything right, stood him up, got goal side of him, and he just absolutely lashed the ball round him and round Sarr into the back of the net. And the two penalties were similar, really. First one, Sarr went the wrong way. Don't blame Sarr at all, one of those things. Second one, he's gone the right way, and he's just absolutely just smashed it past him. And again, not much you can do, but the two penalty decisions were disappointing, really, for me, that for different reasons. The first one, Aït-Nouri and their left back, I think it was, seemed to just run into each other, and it almost seemed to be the actual momentum of the Man City player that took him into Aït-Nouri. So I did think that was really harsh for the referee to give that as a penalty. I'm not sure anywhere else on the pitch they'd get a free kick, but I definitely don't think we'd get it up the other end. So I did think that one was really harsh. The Semedo one, I've only seen it in real time and then again on the screen. The thing that made me think it wasn't a penalty is Haaland actually sort of shakes Semedo's hand and doesn't even appeal for a penalty whatsoever. And we all know what players are like; they'll appeal for anything. So for VAR to get involved in that, I'm not saying it's necessarily the wrong decision. I think even Gary O'Neill came out and said he thought it was a penalty, but for the referee to not give it, I didn't see enough on the replay in the screen in the ground for them to then say, actually, yeah, it's a clear and obvious error, which is obviously the benchmark we've all been told. But we kind of give up with VAR this season, and that was the disappointing thing today. You know, you've given up the whole of your Saturday. I've travelled the length and width of the country to go and watch my team play, and against a team that absolutely need no help whatsoever, they get given two pretty poor decisions, really. And it makes no difference the outcome of the game. Don't get me wrong. You know, we pulled it back to 3-1. Hwang with another goal. He was terrible today, and he was terrible last week, but he keeps scoring, to be fair to him. And I've always said I don't care how bad my centre forward is if they're sticking the ball in the back of the net. But he could have done better with some touches. But, you know, you put it back to 3-1, you're thinking, yeah, brilliant. I don't really expect us to get anything, but, you know, you're going to give it a bit of a go. And what felt like 30 seconds later, it's a long ball to Haaland, he scored again. And to be honest, they're just better than us, and you just have to accept it sometimes. And you look at the players they brought off the bench, every single one of those players they brought off their bench would absolutely start for us, be first name on the team sheet week in, week out. And yeah, you look at our starting 11, do any of them get in Man City's team and or squad? Possibly not. I'll take it back about all their subs getting in our first team, because Núñez came on and absolutely no way I'm picking him in a million years. So, but the rest of them, you know, would comfortably walk into our team. Good to see Hwang and Kuna up front together again. I think they combine well when they're on. And I mentioned for Bellegarde as well, actually, came on today, and I thought he did really well in that sort of right wing position, a bit of a floating role, but mostly out on the right hand side, then moved on to the left. And I think it was good to not see him through the middle. He did then go through the middle when Hwang went off, and again didn't work as it. Nothing worked today, to be fair, but it never works with Bellegarde through the middle. But I thought he actually injected a bit of pace today and did look quite good. And at times we played some nice stuff. Other times we gave the ball away far too cheaply. And I think O'Neill said in his press conference that you've got to be perfect performance against City, and that was far from it today. But City at this stage of the season, I just don't think let you play. I'll be very surprised if they drop any points between now and the final game. But yeah, won't be at the Palace game, so possibly see you after Liverpool. Cheers.
So it's finished Man City 5, Wolves 1. With the result reading performance, we knew it was going to come before the start of the game. Team sheet was a little bit different. Obviously, Hugo Brenner came back in at left back, and then we saw Nuri starting right back. You can see why they did that. Because I thought there's more chance of getting Nick Guardiola and there would be a Kyle Walker on that side of the pitch. So I think that's why they put Nuri there and Samaid on that side into the back line. It's a performance. The midfield, it was one of those where obviously Tommy Doyle couldn't play because he obviously still a lone player at the time. Well, at the time, so Man City players couldn't play. So Boubacar Traore came in again. Again, I was really impressed with him. João Gomez, really good as well in midfield. And same with Mario Lemina. Obviously, half time Lemina came off and they put Bellegarde on. He had something a little bit different in fairness. Nice to see him get some minutes on his belt. But there was just too many mistakes in Wolves. They give the ball away so many times in dangerous areas. The Man City pressed us so high, and every time we got the ball, we were panicking, clearing it out. And every time we cleared, they'd never win the second balls in the midfield, and they could drop the ball into Haaland and De Bruyne in those areas in between the lines, and that was it. Really, that was the big difference for me. And you just know with Man City, the style they sort of play now, it's just they play out to the full-backs, or the wingers go out wide, they pull it back to the set it back to the full-back, and they just put a deep cross into the back post and Haaland gets on it. The amount of goals you see Man City score like that, and they've done it a few times against Wolves. I remember the game last season, it was pretty similar as well. The big turning point for me, a big conversation point, is obviously that first penalty. It probably isn't a penalty in my opinion, it's just two players coming together. But, away at Man City, you're never going to get that decision. Because I know he's got complete eyes on the ball. I don't see how he could ever not make that one. The Samaidi one obviously was. I thought that at the time, to be honest with you, as he's running through in front of us, that was always going to get given. But it's a tough one to take from the boys. Obviously, Gary Neal's took his touchline back the way. Pick Crystal Palace next weekend. We could do with a win here because we don't really want to be fizzing out this season because Anfield last day of the season probably not going to get a win there. So we need a win against Palace. We don't want to completely finish with 3 losses on the bounce. Hopefully Neto might be fit for then. But Juan got another goal as well. So try and keep his form 2-2. Let's try and get everybody fit now. Try and get towards pre-season for next year, and then we can really kick on for next season. But hopefully I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.